What is the most tragic announcement that was made at your high school? April 20th, 1999. I was in my 9th grade math class. One of my best friend's brothers was sitting next to me. In front of me was another guy and we were in the back of the class in the corner. The three of us are chilling, talking, and messing around. We had finished an assignment and had a few minutes. All of a sudden our principal comes over the loudspeaker. Teachers and students. I don't know how to even start to say this. Everyone in the class went silent. We are on lockout until further notice. No one is to leave the school grounds and students who are off campus will not be allowed back in. Please, turn on the TVs in your rooms for more information. I don't know how many times I can say this out loud. We are safe. Pray for Columbine. We were all in shock. Columbine High School was about 10 miles from our high school. My dad worked at Leawood Elementary, 2 blocks down the street, where the first kids ran. Now, my dad normally worked nights, but he worked that day. My dad was my first thought, since they didn't know what was actually going on yet. Is my dad okay? What's going on? My second thought was about my mom. She worked at the Central District office. What in the world was going on there? Then, my thoughts turned to my friends. Names I was lucky to not hear later on the news. I know this sounds like it took minutes to think of all of this, but it was milliseconds. The whole class was in shock when the TV was on. It showed the building that I had driven by every Friday night to take my dad dinner. Another building that my dad was in. The kids running away from the building with their heads covered. We were all staring at the TV, hoping that we'd recognize a face so that we would know our friends were safe. Some kids cried. Others were in shock. No one spoke for what felt like hours. We just stared at the TV, hoping it was just a dream, or a prank. The bell rang, and we were dismissed to our next class. That was the only time in my 4 years at my high school that the hallways were quiet. Once in a while you'd find a group of kids crying and holding each other. It was surreal. I made it to the band room and was able to call my mom. It was a zoo at her office and my dad was safe, helping families who were coming to pick up their kids. He was in for a long night. At 2 p.m., the principal gave us an update and let us know that we weren't on lockdown anymore. You could tell he had been crying. We went home that afternoon to watch the horrifying news unfold. I had only seen my dad cry 3 times in his whole life, and that was one of them. He said that parents swarmed the school, searching for their children as the kids were brought to the school by bus. As the afternoon turned into evening, more and more parents were leaving, thankful that their kids were okay. There were parents of children who were injured that left with police officers and were escorted to the hospitals. There were parents whose children never showed up that afternoon. Some walked out crying. Some were in shock. Some screamed the most wretched noises he's ever heard. My dad was never really the same after that. None of us were.